This year we grew 12 different types of lettuce. In this video I'm going to talk a little bit about each type, and then I'm going to tell you which types I like the best. When trying to decide which type is better than another, there are lots of things to consider, such as appearance, taste, vigor, size, and how they hold up against that occasional hot day. We also did a taste test of all 12 varieties on the same day, and I'll give you the results of that. First, let's talk about the growing conditions that I grew them in. I wanted them all to grow in the same growing conditions, so I planted them in a 25-gallon grow bag. So they did end up competing for space. That's one more thing to consider if you're thinking about growing any of these varieties. Some might have done better if given more room to grow. We also grew some in some stackable pots, but those didn't have time to fully mature. We'll just go in alphabetical order. Buttercrunch is said to be heat tolerant and slow to bolt, but we didn't really give that a fair test. It grows good sized, loosely formed heads and matures in about 60 to 65 days. We went from cool and rainy for a couple of weeks to sunny and hot for a couple of days, and this is one of a couple of varieties that had burned tips because of it. Crisp Mint is a romaine type lettuce that grows about 10 inches tall and can form compact heads if given enough time. It's ready to harvest in about 60 to 65 days and has good crispness. This is one of the ones that suffered a little bit of sun damage when we went from cool and rainy to hot and sunny. Flashy Butter Gem is another romaine type that matures in about 70 days. The one we grew achieved very good size even under crowded growing conditions. In my opinion, this was one of the more attractive types that we grew. This very attractive romaine type lettuce is an old Austrian heirloom. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce the name of this one. It's a romaine type lettuce that matures in about 60 days. It's another very attractive type of lettuce, and in our test grow, it grew somewhat loose heads that also suffered a little burn damage when the weather got warmer. Ice Queen is an iceberg type lettuce. It's more cold tolerant than some varieties, but also takes the heat well and is slow to bolt. The outer leaves of Ice Queen are frilled and loose, but the inner heads are tight and crisp. It takes 80 days to mature, which is slower than many types of lettuce. Our weather got hot here before this one had a chance to mature. We probably needed another 2 to 3 weeks. As you can see, it was just starting to form that inner head. Little Gem lettuce matures in about 50 days and is fairly heat tolerant. I enjoy eating this one in salads, even though the heads don't get very large at all. This is another one that has good crispness. Since this one doesn't grow very large, it got crowded quite a bit in the grow bag. This one might be a good choice for container gardeners with limited space. Lollo Rossa lettuce can be used as a beautiful garnish or can be added to salads. It's a very attractive lettuce with curly leaves. You can pick off the outer leaves and use them in salads as it grows. This lettuce matures in about 60 days. This is one that I think would have benefited from more growing space, but it still formed a fairly decent sized head. Lunix is an oak leaf type of lettuce that is unique because of its color and its shape. This lettuce sometimes produces very dark red leaves. Because of its red coloration, it has anthocyanins, which are antioxidants that offer some interesting health benefits. As well as being a great addition to your salads, this one has a lot of ornamental appeal also. It's just a really pretty plant to look at. May Queen is a butterhead type that's an early maturing variety. It's mostly green, but some of the leaves have edges that appear to have been brushed with pink or red. This one matures in about 50 days. It's a European heirloom that has been around for a couple of 100 years, and if I had my choice, it would be around a couple hundred more. This is another lettuce that I think has a very attractive appearance. And as you can see in our test grow, it grew a head that was starting to fill out very nicely. I'm really going to have to stop growing things that I can't pronounce. This is another one that I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce. This lettuce matures earlier than most at 48 days. It's an old French heirloom that does better in the heat than some varieties. It's a bib-type lettuce that grows decent-sized heads. This is another one that grew a really nice-looking, big, full head. I couldn't help but try to imagine what a row of these would look like. Merlot is a loose-leaf red lettuce that can get very dark red leaves. The one we grew in the stackable pots got much darker than the one we grew in the grow bag. This is another variety that probably would have benefited from a little more space and a little more time. I'm either going to have to stop growing some of these or I'm going to have to take French lessons, because this is another one that's an old French heirloom that I can't pronounce. This is a butterhead type that has red speckles, which gives it a very unique and attractive appearance. It has soft, delicate leaves that are good to eat, but it also has an ornamental quality to it too. This is another one that I think probably would have benefited from more growing room. As you can see, it's not as full and well developed as some of the other types. Now that we've taken a look at all the different types, it's time for the results of the taste test that we did. But before we get to that, I think it'd be fun if everybody, before you go, would just list your favorite type of lettuce down in the comments. I would appreciate it, and I'm sure other folks who read the comments would appreciate it. Now it's time to give you the results of our top 5 for eating. We'll start at number 5 and go to number 1. Keep in mind that results can vary from year to year due to growing conditions. Coming in at number 5 in our taste test was Buttercrunch. This one had a mild taste and a pleasant texture. Even though we did have some days that were hot enough to burn the tips of it, it wasn't bitter at all. As a matter of fact, out of all the types we tasted, we only tasted 2 that had any bitterness, and those were Lollo Rossa and Ice Queen. This one came in at number 4. It also had mild taste and a pleasant texture. And like the Buttercrunch, the leaves got burned a little bit at the tips by the hot weather. Crisp Mint, like its name would suggest, had a crisp texture, but didn't have time to fully form that inner head. But it tasted pretty good. This one came in at number 2 in our taste test. And I would have to say I would put this in my top 2 of overall favorite types of lettuce to grow. It's just a good all-around lettuce, and as you can see, it did very well even in cramped conditions. And coming in at number 1 in our taste test is May Queen. And like with number 2, this would be in my top 2 favorite types of lettuce to grow. I like the looks of it, the taste of it, and even the texture of it. Don't forget to let us know your favorite type of lettuce to grow, and if you're just now finding this channel, please subscribe. We'll see you next time.